Hi, everyone. Folks are still joining us through Zoom, and I know we just started broadcasting live on Facebook, so we're going to give it a minute for folks to hop on and join us. We're looking forward to today's Wake Up Wednesday. I hope you are. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm the Reverend Dawn Cooley, a Unitarian Universalist minister here in Louisville and part of the El Surge Faith Planning Team. Welcome to the 9th Wake Up Wednesday virtual vigil, which is co-sponsored by Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice, the Interfaith Coalition for Immigrant Justice, and the Sowers of Justice. These vigils are part of the Sacred Calling Community Safety for All program, whose weekly emails you can sign up for online. During our vigil today, there will be 2 periods of silence. The first period of silence will be 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence to focus our attention on people who have been killed by police violence. Then we will hear a reflection from the Reverend Rachel Small Stokes, pastor of Immanuel United Church of Christ. And after that, there will be a second silence during which you will be invited to share your prayerful intentions. If you're on Zoom, you'll be able to do this in the chat. And if you're joining us via Facebook, please share your prayerful intentions during that time by entering the comments. Our vigil today will conclude at 12:30. If you cannot stay for the whole time, or if you'd like to see it again later, it will be available on the Sowers of Justice Network's Facebook page. Take a deep breath and let's get comfortable and begin to center ourselves, find a comfortable seating position, and let us enter together into 526 seconds of silent vigil. That's 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence as we focus our attention on people who have been killed by police violence. Thank you for participating in 526 seconds of silent vigil for people who have been killed by police violence. Let us now reflect with the Reverend Rachel Small Stokes. Rachel?
Hi. Can you all see me okay? I can't really tell. Okay, thank you. Well, the sort of question that we come to this with is why do we care? Why do we as people of faith care about these issues of racial justice, and where does that hit us personally? And as I was reflecting on that, I was thinking about how in 4th grade, when I was learning about the Holocaust, I read the words of the pastor Martin Niemöller that are so famous now, but haunt me daily in this moment. At first, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. As a 4th grader, in my own sort of egocentrism, that really hit home, like this all impacts me too, right? And as I have grown out of that to care about more than, my own self, I realized that that was sort of the beginning of what, I now hear sociologists call intersectionality, but the beginning of the awareness of my connectivity. And the sociological word might be intersectionality, but the faith word from my tradition is the cloud of witnesses that all work together to sort of bring about more light in the world. As I grew up and became more religious and studied the prophets and learned about the calls for justice for the poor and the widow and the orphan, I began to see those connections in our society. Not just the poor and the elderly and the orphans who still need that, but people of color, immigrants, people of differing abilities, and people of varied sexual orientations and gender identities. And it was that last one that really taught me a lot, because now I live it. I come to this discussion as a queer cis woman married to another woman. And through that journey, I have suffered enough otherness to know what it's like to be scared in an interaction just because of who you are, to be afraid to reveal something about yourself or to say the wrong thing. And that gives me enough to know that racial justice is different. I frequently get to hide or choose what I say and reveal. But my siblings that have a layer of skin with more melanin in it than me do not. And that affects them in an even deeper way. But I try to use what I have learned about my own experience to deepen my own empathy for those who are different in other ways. And it is that knowledge of what it's like to live in fear that activates my imagination in this issue of police violence. To imagine what it must be like to be a constant target, to be perceived as a constant threat just for going about your daily life. It is also my Christian faith that compels me not to turn away and ignore, but instead to turn the other cheek, to see from a new perspective, to honor the people who frequently get shoved aside. My Christian faith, formed as it was in Jewish faith, is rooted in justice, in equity, and in advocacy. And it's also my faith that gives me ways of framing and dealing with, and frankly, surviving hard times. And one of those is coming up this Sunday, All Saints Day. This derives from a Catholic tradition that is still strong, but I am not Catholic, so my version of it is slightly different. In the Catholic tradition, there were saints with a capital S that were celebrated on November 1st, and then there were souls with a slightly lower case s that were celebrated on November 2nd. And the Protestant tradition that I am from has sort of combined those to saints with a lowercase s. And my understanding of that is the recognition that each of us, every single human on this planet, is created in the divine image. And so each of us has some bit of us that is saint, even with a little s. And it is that theological conviction that causes me to look at someone targeted for discrimination or violence or even murder, and to see that that is nothing less than God being targeted for those things. One of the traditions of All Saints' Day is to read aloud the names of those who have died in the last year, to ring a bell or a chime, and to light a candle for each person who has died in that previous year. And we often use this phrase that they have become a part of the cloud of witnesses. That is from Paul's letter to the Hebrews. This image of the cloud of witnesses is one that, for me personally, represents a cloud of strength that I can turn to, a cloud of stories of people that have gone before and borne witness and suffered and transformed their suffering into healing. People who can give me strength. And so if my hope is to one day be among the cloud of witnesses, the lowercase saints, then I am called to love the whole cloud and to lift them up and to honor them in the ways that they have struggled before me and the ways they continue with their stories to give me strength. This background image that I have here is from Minneapolis and the area where George Floyd was killed. And I found this image at Pentecost, which is a different Christian holiday that involves fire. And I loved this heat, sparks, flame image because the pain and suffering from George Floyd's death has sparked a movement of justice that is bringing forth new flames, not of destruction, but of justice. And when I light candles at All Saints' Day, I think about the ways that a candle that lights another candle does not diminish the first flame, but instead adds more light. And so even when some candles are extinguished, they have extended the light around. So I want to take a moment to have a little bit of an All Saints' Day ritual. I've asked to share my screen here, and the list of names that was so overwhelming indeed to read on our meditation is a different list than I found, but my hope is that this list will suffice for helping us think through the divine image that is in each of these people. So this is from the Say Their Names website. I'm gonna move my little cloud of Zoom witnesses a little bit. Okay. So what I will do is just read the names, and I'm gonna start with Michael Dean because that's the calendar year. I'll read the names and offer a chime. Michael Dean. John Neville. Messiah Lee. Darius Tarver. William Green. Jaquin O'Neill Light. Lionel Morris. Ahmad Arbery. Manuel Ellis. Barry Gideus. Brianna Taylor. Daniel Prude. Stephen Taylor. Cornelius Fredericks. Maurice Gordon. George Floyd. Dion Johnson. Tony McDade. Calvin Horton Jr. James Scurlock. David McAtee. Jamel Floyd. Kamal Flowers. Robert Forbes. Priscilla Slatter. Richard Brooks. Maurice Abistide Wagner. Julian Lewis. Anthony McLean. Damian Daniels. Dijon Kizee. Jonathan Price. And just 2 days ago, Walter Wallace Jr. I invite you to a time of reflecting on your own saints and those whose journeys give you strength. If there are names you want to lift up in the chat or by audio, not sure if we do that or not.
Not by audio, but in the chat if they're on Zoom,
Okay.
or in the Facebook comments if they're streaming on Facebook. And we'll reflect on those names for about a minute, and then Rachel will lead us in a closing prayer.
going to leave you with a little visual prayer from the scriptures that are meaningful to me. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin that clings so closely. Let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, and may the God of peace make you complete in everything good.
Amen. And thank you, Rachel, for leading our online vigil today. And thank all of you for joining us. Thank you for joining us too at the other activities that have been a part of our Sacred Calling Community Safety for All program. And please know that the in-person vigils at 5 p.m. at the Big Four Bridge will be continuing with additional social distancing in light of the new guidance from the governor. Thank you all so much. Go in peace. Go making justice.
Amen.